Brick Thunderclash leaned against the grimy wall of a Redmond Barrens dive bar, nursing a lukewarm soy beer. He was a massive Troll Street samurai, his chrome-augmented muscles straining against his synth-leather jacket. Brick had seen it all in the shadows, but tonight's job felt different. The Johnson, a shadowy figure known only as Silhouette, had offered a sizable payout for a straightforward extraction mission. Brick was to retrieve a kidnapped corporate executive, Roger Hargreave, from a rival corporation's clutches. The Noyan was good, and he needed it to keep his fixer off his back. The information was sparse. Hargreave had been taken by a powerful corp, Ares Macro Technology, and held in one of their black site facilities. The fact that Silhouette had the intel meant she had connections deep within Ares, but the less Brick knew about that, the better. As Brick drained his soy beer, he received a ping on his comlink. It was the drop point for the gear he'd need: a duffel bag with an Ares Predator 6, a collapsible mono sword, and a few other essentials. It was time to gear up and hit the streets. Brick's journey led him through the twisting alleys of the Redmond Barrens. The air was thick with the stench of decay and desperation, a far cry from the corporate utopia that Ares portrayed. It was here that he finally met Silhouette in person. She was a lithe figure draped in a shadowy cloak. Her voice was digitally altered, concealing her identity. She handed Brick a data chip with the details of the extraction point, a rundown warehouse on the outskirts of the Barrens. With the intel in hand, Brick headed to the warehouse under the cover of night. The building was surrounded by chain-link fences topped with razor wire, a formidable barrier even for a troll of his stature. But he had dealt with worse. Scaling the fence was child's play for Brick, and he found himself inside the compound. As he approached the warehouse, he heard muffled voices and the occasional burst of laughter. Guards, no doubt? Brick decided to take the direct approach. He activated his cyberized low-light vision and burst through the warehouse doors. A firefight erupted as Ares guards swarmed in from all directions. Brick's cyber-augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge bullets and return fire with lethal precision. Brick's cyber-enhanced reflexes kicked into high gear as the room erupted into chaos. Bullets sprayed the dimly lit warehouse from all directions, shattering crates and sending sparks flying. It was an ambush, a well-coordinated one, and Brick and Hargreave were caught right in the middle of it. The acrid stench of gunfire filled the air as Brick dived behind a stack of crates for cover. His troll-sized body shielded Hargreave, who was scrambling for safety nearby. The deafening roar of automatic weapons echoed in the confined space. Brick's Streetline Special barked back in response, sending bursts of heavy-caliber rounds toward their attackers. He aimed for their muzzle flashes, hoping to suppress the relentless onslaught. The flashes illuminated the shadows, revealing a group of masked assailants in tactical gear. The enemy was well-armed and well-trained, their coordinated assault evident as they laid down suppressing fire. Bullets chewed through the crates, sending wooden splinters and debris flying in all directions. "Stay low," Brick shouted to Hargreave over the din of gunfire. He knew they needed a plan, and fast. Hargreave nodded, clutching his own weapon, a sleek, customized Ares Predator, in trembling hands. He peeked out from behind cover, taking careful shots whenever an opportunity presented itself. Brick's augmented reflexes allowed him to pop up briefly, firing with precision before ducking down to reload. It was a deadly dance, a lethal game of cat and mouse in a hail of bullets. Sweat dripped from Brick's brow, his adrenaline surging as he spotted one of the assailants attempting to flank them. Without hesitation, he unleashed a controlled burst, sending the attacker sprawling to the ground. Hargreave's shots found their mark as well, thinning the enemy's numbers, but the odds were still stacked against them. It was a brutal firefight, a testament to the ruthless nature of the shadows. The acrid taste of gunpowder mixed with the metallic tang of blood in the air as the battle raged on. Brick knew they couldn't hold out much longer. Desperation set in as he glanced at Hargreave, both of them silently acknowledging the grim reality they were outnumbered and outgunned. Then, a deafening explosion rocked the warehouse, sending shockwaves through the air. Dust and smoke billowed, obscuring the battlefield. It was a stroke of luck, or perhaps something more sinister, but it provided the diversion they needed. In the chaos, Brick grabbed Hargreave and pulled him toward an open exit. The assailants were disoriented by the blast, and the two runners seized their chance to escape. The firefight had taken its toll, leaving Brick and Hargreave battered and bruised, but they were alive. As they retreated into the shadows, Brick couldn't help but wonder who had set them up and why. The shadows held their secrets well, and they had only scratched the surface of the treacherous web they had been entangled in. One thing was clear: Brick and Hargreave were in deeper than they could have ever imagined, and the stakes were higher than ever. Weeks had passed since the ambush in the warehouse, and the wounds, both physical and psychological, had begun to heal. Brick and Hargreave had retreated to the relative safety of their hideout, a dingy apartment in the heart of the sprawl. The questions that had haunted them since that fateful night still gnawed at their minds. Who had set them up? And why were they targeted? As they combed through the limited information they had, they realized that the shadows concealed their secrets well. Brick's massive frame slouched in a rickety chair, his cyberware-covered arms resting on the scratched and worn table. Hargreave sat across from him, nursing a drink from a chipped glass. "We need answers," Brick grumbled, his deep voice resonating with determination. "Someone knew about that extraction, and I want to find out who." Hargreave nodded in agreement, his face etched with a mix of frustration and fear. "But how do we even begin? The shadows are full of people who'd rather stay hidden." Brick's cybernetic eyes gleamed with a glint of resolve. "We start by tracing back our steps. Whoever set us up had to have known about our target. Let's dig into that." Their research led them down a convoluted path of contacts, pay data, and rumors. It became evident that their target, a mid-level corporate executive named William Thornton, had connections to a number of powerful individuals and organizations. As they peeled back the layers of Thornton's life, they stumbled upon a dark and twisted underworld. It appeared that their mark was involved in illicit deals, corporate espionage, and even connections to a human trafficking ring. The revelations were chilling, and they began to piece together the puzzle. "We need to confront Thornton," Hargreave said, his voice trembling with a mixture of dread and determination. Brick nodded, his massive hand clenching into a fist. "And we need to find out who wanted him gone so badly that they set us up." Their plan was simple yet fraught with danger. They would track Thornton down, confront him with the information they had unearthed, and demand answers. But they were acutely aware that they were treading on dangerous ground where powerful interests and ruthless individuals lurked in the shadows. With their resolve steeled, Brick and Hargreave ventured back into the treacherous world of Shadowrun, ready to confront the dark forces that had manipulated their fate. As they stepped into the neon-lit night, they knew that the path ahead would be perilous, but they were runners and the shadows were their home. The duo's investigation led them to the outskirts of the sprawl, where Thornton was rumored to frequent a secretive underground club known as the Abyss. It was a place where the powerful and the nefarious gathered, their true intentions hidden behind masks and holographic disguises. As Brick and Hargreave entered the Abyss, the atmosphere was electric, charged with an undercurrent of tension and debauchery. Neon lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the faces of patrons as they reveled in anonymity. Their search for Thornton was no easy task amidst the cacophony of music, laughter, and whispered conversations. But persistence paid off when they spotted their target seated at a private booth, surrounded by a group of armed bodyguards. Brick approached with a steely determination, while Hargreave stayed in the shadows, ready to provide support if things went awry. Thornton, a middle-aged man with a slick demeanor, glanced up as Brick loomed over him. "Thornton," Brick rumbled, his voice carrying a note of threat. "We need to talk." Thornton's eyes darted nervously between the imposing troll and his entourage. He recognized the duo from the botched extraction, and the color drained from his face. "I don't know what you're talking about." Brick slammed a fist onto the table, causing glasses to topple and liquid to spill. "Don't play games with us. We know about your dealings, your connections. We know everything." Hargreave, hidden in the shadows, discreetly accessed the club's security system, ready to broadcast their evidence to the club's patrons if necessary. Thornton's composure began to crumble. All right, what do you want?" Brick leaned in closer, his voice a menacing growl. "The truth. Who wanted you gone so badly that they set us up for the kill?" Thornton hesitated, sweat beading on his forehead. It was a powerful syndicate. They saw me as a threat and they wanted me out of the way. They hired a team to take me out, and it seems they failed." Brick's grip tightened, his massive hand inches from Thornton's throat. "The name of the syndicate." Thornton gasped for breath, his eyes wide with terror. The Black Serpent Syndicate. That's all I know, I swear. With the information they needed extracted from Thornton, Brick and Hargreave withdrew from the abyss, their mission accomplished. But they were acutely aware that their actions had consequences and they had just crossed a dangerous line. The Black Serpent Syndicate was a powerful and ruthless organization, and their pursuit of answers had painted a target on their backs. As they retreated into the shadows once more, Brick and Hargreave knew that the shadows held more secrets and dangers than they could ever imagine. But they were runners and the shadows were their home. The following days were marked by a growing sense of unease. Brick and Hargreave knew that the Black Serpent Syndicate was not an adversary to be underestimated. Their investigation had put them on a collision course with one of the most influential criminal organizations in the shadows, and the consequences were potentially lethal. They decided to reach out to their own network of contacts, seeking allies who could help them navigate the treacherous waters they now found themselves in. The clock was ticking, and the threat of retaliation from the Syndicate hung over them like a dark cloud. Their search led them to an enigmatic figure known as Whisper, a fixer with a reputation for discreetly connecting runners with valuable information and resources. In the world of Shadowrunning, Whisper was both elusive and trustworthy, a rarity in a sea of deception. A clandestine meeting was arranged in a dimly lit alleyway where Whisper's digital avatar appeared on a holo projector. "I've heard about your run-in with the Black Serpent Syndicate," the figure said in a modulated voice. "You've made some powerful enemies." Brick nodded grimly. "We need to know more about them. Their operations, their leadership, anything that can give us an edge." Whisper's holographic image seemed to smile beneath the mask it wore. "Information comes at a price, but I can provide you with what you seek. However, you'll owe me a favor in return, to be determined at a later date." Hargreave raised an eyebrow. "A favor from us might not be easy to fulfill. What guarantee do we have that this information will be worth it?" Whisper's laughter echoed in the alley. "You have my word that the information will be valuable. Besides, I have a feeling that the two of you are about to embark on a journey that will change the balance of power in the shadows. What's a small favor between friends?" The deal was struck, and Whisper shared a data file containing valuable insights into the Black Serpent Syndicate's activities, territories, and known operatives. It was a treasure trove of information that would serve as their guide in the coming days. As Brick and Hargreave left the alley, the weight of their situation bore down on them. They were now armed with knowledge, but they were also marked as adversaries by a formidable foe. The shadows had grown darker, and the game had become deadlier. With their newfound information and Whisper's cryptic words echoing in their minds, they prepared to face the Black Serpent Syndicate head-on, knowing that their journey into the shadows was far from over. Brick and Hargreave meticulously planned their next moves, utilizing the information provided by Whisper to their advantage. They knew that if they were to survive and turn the tide against the Black Serpent Syndicate, they needed to be strategic, relentless, and cunning. Their first step was to target the Syndicate's revenue streams. They identified several illegal operations, including drug manufacturing, arms dealing, and money laundering. By disrupting these activities, they hoped to weaken the Syndicate's financial foundation. Brick's combat skills and Hargreave's hacking prowess proved to be a formidable combination. They raided drug labs, intercepted arms shipments, and exposed money laundering schemes. Each successful operation dealt a blow to the Syndicate's operations and garnered them more enemies among the criminal elite. As they continued their campaign, they uncovered the Syndicate's web of corrupt officials and corporate collaborators. It became apparent that the Black Serpent Syndicate had infiltrated even the highest levels of society. Their influence extended beyond the criminal underworld and reached into the heart of the city's power structure. But their efforts did not go unnoticed. The Syndicate retaliated with increasing ferocity. They sent elite enforcers after Brick and Hargreave, each encounter more brutal than the last. The streets of the city became battlegrounds, with gunfire and explosions echoing through the night. One particularly harrowing showdown took place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Brick faced off against a relentless adversary known as Serpent's Fang, a feared enforcer of the Black Serpent Syndicate. Their battle was a symphony of violence, with blows exchanged that left both combatants battered and bleeding. In the end, Brick managed to defeat Serpent's Fang, but not without sustaining severe injuries. Hargreave's quick thinking and medical skills saved his life, but the scars of that encounter would remain with him forever. As the days turned into weeks and then months, Brick and Hargreave's relentless campaign began to take its toll. They had disrupted the syndicate's operations, exposed their corruption, and eliminated key operatives. The balance of power in the shadows was shifting, and the syndicate's grip on the city weakened. But the cost had been high. Their bodies bore the scars of countless battles, and they had made powerful enemies who would stop at nothing to see them eliminated. The shadows had exacted their price, and Brick and Hargreave knew that they could never return to the lives they had once known. In the end, the city's underworld watched with bated breath as the two Shadowrunners faced off against the Black Serpent Syndicate's leadership in a climactic showdown. It was a battle that would determine the fate of the city and the future of the Shadows. As they stood on the precipice of that final confrontation, Brick and Hargreave knew that their journey into the Shadows had transformed them. They had become legends in their own right, their names whispered in both fear and admiration. But the Shadows were unforgiving, and the price of their newfound status was steep. The conclusion of their epic struggle would shape the destiny of the city, and only one side could emerge victorious. The night of the climactic showdown arrived, shrouded in darkness and tension. The location was a derelict corporate skyscraper, a towering monument to the city's past. It had become a symbol of the Syndicate's grip on power, and now it would be the battleground for their ultimate confrontation. Brick and Hargreave had meticulously planned their assault, exploiting weaknesses they had uncovered during their long and grueling campaign. The building's security systems had been compromised, and they had gathered valuable intel on the Syndicate's leadership. The two Shadowrunners ascended the skyscraper's stairwell, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew that this was the moment they had been preparing for, the culmination of months of blood, sweat, and sacrifice. As they reached the top floor, they found themselves in a dimly lit penthouse, a stark contrast to the opulence that usually adorned such places. The room was filled with the Syndicate's top lieutenants, each one a formidable adversary in their own right. The tension in the room was palpable as Brick and Hargreave faced off against the Syndicate's leadership. Words were exchanged, threats were made, and alliances were tested. It was a high-stakes negotiation with the fate of the city hanging in the balance. But negotiations quickly broke down, and violence erupted in a flurry of gunfire and magic. The penthouse became a battleground, with bullets flying, spells being cast, and the clash of swords ringing through the air. The final showdown in the dimly lit penthouse of the derelict corporate skyscraper was a scene of chaos and desperation. Brick and Hargreave faced off against the Syndicate's leadership, a formidable group of lieutenants who had thrived in the city's underworld for years. Bullets pierced the air, spells crackled with deadly intent, and the penthouse's lavish furnishings were reduced to shattered debris. The clash of swords and the thud of bodies hitting the floor created a cacophony of violence that echoed through the room. Brick, the hulking Troll Street samurai, was a whirlwind of destruction. His cybernetically enhanced reflexes allowed him to move with lightning speed, dodging bullets and striking with deadly precision. He swung his massive cyber arm, a weapon of destruction cleaving through the Syndicate's enforcers with ruthless efficiency. Hargreave, the agile elf decker, used her mastery of technology to manipulate the battle's digital landscape. She disabled security systems, disrupted communication channels, and unleashed deadly countermeasures against the Syndicate's cybernetically enhanced guards. Her fingers danced across her cyberdeck's holographic interface as she fought to maintain control of the battle's virtual battlefield. The Syndicate's lieutenants were no pushovers, and each one possessed their own unique skills and abilities. One of them wielded powerful elemental magic, conjuring flames and torrents of water to assail the Shadowrunners. Another was a cybernetic monstrosity with armored limbs and deadly integrated weaponry. As the battle raged on, the room's opulent decor was reduced to rubble, and the once imposing lieutenants fell one by one. The penthouse's windows shattered, letting in the neon glow of the city below, a stark contrast to the violence within. Brick and Hargreave fought with a ferocity born of desperation. They knew that this was their chance to end the Syndicate's reign of terror, but the odds were stacked against them. The lieutenants fought with a fanatical loyalty to their criminal empire, refusing to yield even in the face of defeat. In the end, it was Brick's cyber-enhanced strength and Hargreave's strategic brilliance that prevailed. Together, they executed a perfectly coordinated assault that overwhelmed the remaining lieutenants. The battle culminated in a final, devastating blow that left the last of the syndicate's leaders incapacitated. But victory came at a heavy cost. Brick and Hargreave were battered and bruised, their bodies pushed to the brink of exhaustion. The penthouse was a scene of devastation, with shattered glass, scorched walls, and the lifeless bodies of their adversaries. As the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded, Brick and Hargreave stood amidst the wreckage. The city's underworld had witnessed their triumph, and the shadows had yielded to their indomitable will. But the victory was bittersweet. They had paid a steep price for their defiance, and the scars of their journey were etched into their bodies and souls. The shadows had changed them, molding them into something new and formidable. As they looked out over the city, they knew that they could never return to the lives they had once known. The shadows had claimed them, and their names had become whispered legends among the Shadowrunning community. And so, as the neon glow of the city's skyline bathed them in its eerie light, Brick and Hargreave disappeared into the night, their names forever etched into the annals of Shadowrunning history. The city would never forget their names, and the shadows would forever bear the imprint of their relentless pursuit of justice.